So when we started with our Agile adoption, we had 1 or 2 teams who were co-located in London, and all was very well. The communication between them was very good. They all knew what was going on with the other teams. But as you start scaling, we started to introduce multiple different locations into that, multiple different stakeholders and programs, all working on the same code base at the same time. And we were finding that we were starting to split the work. We were starting to follow some of the problems with Conway's law, which is the applications you start to build start to mirror the organisational structures you build. So we were starting to see cases where the various programs didn't know what the other programs were doing. They were starting to copy code. They were starting to lose the consistency on code. And we were starting to lose some of the knowledge and some of the ownership within some of the applications that we had. And it's difficult because Scrum traditionally doesn't encourage any overhead above the team. So Scrum really has a model of pigs and chickens, where the pig is sort of the people who are committed to doing the project work, and the chickens are sort of the management and people who sit outside the project team. And traditionally Scrum has been sort of given a very poor view on people who are an overhead. But really, most recently, people have started to realise that the people who are classed as chickens, they're just pigs in another group. The project managers, the stakeholders, they are as committed to the projects as anybody else and as important to the projects as anybody else. It's just they're not doing development day to day. So we found that when we've had a situation where you have just a number of project teams, and maybe we've been working at scales where we've had sort of 15 or 20 project teams working globally, the coordination between them is very sporadic when all you have is those teams working together. And we've seen this over the past sort of over 12 to 18 months, where the teams really didn't know what the other teams were doing, and they were getting into all sorts of issues because it was very, very difficult to maintain that communication at that distance. So there's a number of different things that we've had to do to address some of these issues. The first one is starting to realise that there is no such thing as an overhead. There is a layer that has to sit above the development teams that exists to coordinate them. And through a combination of delivery management and architectural management, we've introduced a sort of middle layer that sits above the development teams but exists to support them. And those teams perform basically 2 functions. They're there to deliver your portfolio, and they're there to deliver your product. So from an architectural point of view, you want to make sure that the teams are delivering on your commitments to a long-term architecture strategy, and from a portfolio point of view, you want to make sure that the teams are meeting the milestones and developing your application portfolio in a constructive way. So another thing that we did was we introduced a new product-centric delivery approach. Traditionally, we've delivered software purely through projects, and what happens in that situation is that the project team will do whatever they need to meet the milestone. So they will copy code, they will introduce technical debt, they will miss out testing. But no one is thinking about the long-term stability and long-term life cycle of the products they're developing. So what we have worked on most recently is introducing a view of a product-centric view into that, where you have people whose prime responsibility is for the quality and longevity of the software products, and the product-centric delivery team will ensure that the projects deliver to the required levels of quality, but still also attempting to meet their project milestones. So most recently we've been doing quite a lot of work on trying to introduce a learning organisation. So to do this, we decided that the best approach to achieving this was a set of federated communities. We have development teams throughout the globe, and trying to provide some centralised learning approach for all of those teams we thought was too difficult. So over the past 6 to 12 months, we've set up community groups in almost all of our locations. The groups are responsible for performing open spaces, performing brown bag sessions. We have standard bits of training, such as TDD sessions, that we share amongst those groups. The groups are very much self-managed and self-controlled, and some different groups are doing different things. For instance, book clubs or coding dojos or sessions like that. We're trying to encourage the continual learning and the continual improvement of our teams by federating that responsibility out to the actual teams in the actual locations and giving them the support, but just leaving them to get on with it themselves and organise whatever they think fit is within their location. The feedback's been really good. So we've now got teams running in APAC, we have a very active community running in Krakow, we have a community running in India, and we have a community running in North America. I was in North America last week and I did 2 sessions with the teams over there for a TDD session where previously I'd only been able to help them remotely over video conferencing, but it's great. We've had really good feedback, and I think that the teams particularly like the freedom that they're given to choose their own topics. So for instance, the team in London recently did a session on Arduino programming, which is programming of small little microchip boards that make LEDs flash and things like that. They decided that would be an interesting thing to talk about, and they held a brown bag session and wrote some code to do that. And they felt empowered themselves to choose whatever they like. So the teams really like this approach because they can learn about things that they find interesting, and we just provide the support and the time for them to do it. We started it off by creating a team in London. We got the team in London to demonstrate some of the workshops or the brown bag sessions we wanted to do. We started to use Connections Group, which is UBS's own internal collaborative software. We used that to publish the results of the sessions that we did. We made those available to people in other locations. They started to see the sessions that might interest them, and they then started groups in their locations, and we're now feeding information around from group to group. Everybody is suggesting new ideas. Only last Friday, one of the teams in Kiev came up with the idea of algorithm of the week, and they wrote an algorithm on our connection site, and there's now teams all over the globe trying to solve this algorithm in the best possible way. So we're finding we're finding interest in this from all over the place. Good for learning, good for collaboration, good for breaking down the boundaries, and a bit of fun as well. I think people really enjoy the sessions and feel like that they are not only having a little bit of time out from their day-to-day work, but learning something new and being able to sort of think in a very creative way.